So for this G scale, I always make sure to kick out plenty of third valve slide for the low D. And personally, when I start the low G, I have it just a sliver out, but a lot of times people don't kick out their slide on the low G. It kind of depends on their instrument. And make sure to hold the whole note for full value and have a nice clear articulation on every single eighth note because this one's marked without a slur. So making sure that my fingers are nice and clear as I go up and down the scale, and as I come down, making sure to slur it so that they can hear the difference between your tongue sound and your slurred sound. This is one of those excerpts that shows why second trumpet is sometimes its own job. In fact, my teacher here at the Peabody Institute is the second trumpet of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and he has some really special skills from playing some kind of tricky second trumpet parts like this. So even though sometimes low notes are considered easier than high notes, it can be sort of a challenge to get to a really good sound on a low note from up higher, and then to get out of that, like there's a big jump from low B to high E. So just thinking about making sure that you have a nice big breath at the beginning, plenty of air to fuel all that, because I think personally low notes take a little bit more air, and having a lot of energy in the 16th notes, kind of thinking like a drum or something like that. And also making sure that anything that's sort of shorter, like having an eighth note and an eighth rest, isn't pecky. We want to avoid sort of like a, and make sure that the end of the note is open, even though we're keeping the note a little shorter. And the last thing I would say is that for the accents, just making them a little bit heavier than the notes around them, and just making them sound a little bit different. It's such a lovely melody. You know, it's the melody right at the beginning of the symphony, and the trumpets get a chance to play it. This is actually a pretty common excerpt for professional orchestras, and so is the second trumpet part. It's actually even more common. I think the important thing is just to have really full value notes at the beginning. The quarter notes are full value all the way into the next half note. Da 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 dum. And not sort of cutting off before you make the leap will really help to make this nice and musical and singing. But also, once you get to the accents and the staccatos in the second line, to really bring those out and make them a little bit different. And the marcato marks before L, sort of a different marking, especially on a whole note. I really just think of having a big front, and maybe not as extreme as a bell tone, but just bringing them back the volume a little bit while you sustain it, because there's other stuff going on in the orchestra while you're holding that note. And I think the one last really nice touch, that tied whole note in measure 236, having a nice diminuendo at the end as that trumpet line fades out. So I have a lot of the same advice as the first trumpet part for this one. It's a beautiful melodic line, but making sure to have the accents and the staccatos sound different, as well as the marcatos, just bringing back the volume a little bit as you hold those, but having a nice kind of heavier front. Also the diminuendo at the end. What's different about the second trumpet excerpt is you might need an extra breath or two. There's a lot of air to play these low register notes, making sure that very important to have the third valve slide out on the low Ds so that they're nice and in tune. And yeah, really making sure to dig into the low Cs, and keep that really nice sound on those and not let them get too tubby. Again, this is actually the second trumpet part is very common on professional auditions and shows a lot about really taking care of these notes at the bottom of the staff and making them as beautiful as we can.